Previously on Dragon Ball Shinken, after suffering a defeat at the hands of Vegeta, the god of destruction, Cumber, the god killer, went to planet Namek to gather the Dragon Balls and discover the origin of Goku and Vegeta. But the Namekian god Piccolo intends to stop him from achieving this, and a fierce battle ensues. Cumber resorts to Super Saiyan with his power increased 100 times by the Kaioken, while Piccolo transforms into his final form, the Namekian god form. Who will win this battle? The one who inherited part of the Great Zalama's power, or the malevolent Saiyan? Find out now. Episode 16, The Legendary Battle on Namek. Back on Earth, Goku and Vegeta have just finished enjoying a great meal prepared by Chi-Chi. After bidding farewell to Yamcha, Young Master Roshi, and Krillin, they use instant transmission to travel to planet Namek in order to gather the Dragon Balls and uncover what's happening to them. However, when they arrive at the location where they expect the planet to be, they find nothing but empty space. Goku and Vegeta are left frustrated with Goku speculating that the same thing happened when they tried to find planet Vegeta. Vegeta deduces that Namek in this reality must be in a different location, or might not even exist. They contemplate how to find Namek until Goku has an idea. They can use the Dragon Balls from planet Cereal to uncover the truth. Vegeta likes the idea and they use instant transmission once again. On Namek, Cumber emits a black and red aura, an incredibly intense aura of Super Saiyan power multiplied 100 times by the Kaioken. On the other side, Piccolo emanates the radiant aura of the Namekian god's power, a magically graceful yet extremely menacing force. As Piccolo faces Cumber, he senses an overwhelming ferocity in this warrior, a thirst for blood and violence unlike anything he's ever encountered. In contrast, Cumber notices the Namekian god's profound serenity and an air of overwhelming superiority, as if he were facing a true giant. As the Namekian god gazes at him, Cumber sweats profusely. His breathing becomes heavier, and his muscles tense involuntarily. The Saiyan is in terror. "Enough!" Cumber roars, releasing an even denser aura of energy. "I won't let you oppress me, Namekian. It seems there's no other choice," the Namekian says. Cumber takes the initiative, propelling himself towards Piccolo like a bullet. He throws a punch that Piccolo blocks, who senses his tremendous force and recognizes his power. However, it's Cumber who feels the real impact when Piccolo counters with a punch that shatters Cumber's block and lands in his abdomen. Despite this, the Saiyan resists and counterattacks, initiating an exchange of frenzied blows with Piccolo. The two combatants begin to move at a speed of millions of times greater than the speed of light, going around planet Namek several times in milliseconds and leaving hundreds of gigantic craters all over the planet. But the place they are in is not the real planet Namek. They are in a parallel dimension that Piccolo took them to so they could fight without worry. During the exchange of blows, Cumber finds himself at a disadvantage and decides to shift to an energy-based confrontation. He creates a massive sphere of power and hurls it at Piccolo, who responds with an energy wave that pierces Cumber's power spear, striking him and exploding in the Saiyan's body. Cumber withstands the attack, but it distracts him enough for Piccolo to break through his guard with a powerful knee strike to the stomach, leaving Cumber in agony. Cumber attempts to counter with an elbow strike, but Piccolo grabs his elbow and retaliates with a rib-crushing punch, causing Cumber to double over in pain before receiving a kick that sends him crashing into the ground. After that, Piccolo concentrates a high amount of power in one of his hands and releases a powerful energy wave at Cumber. This attack would surely have the power to completely destroy Cumber, but to Piccolo's surprise, it is deflected. The reason for this is that Cumber has elevated his power, now using Super Saiyan 2 with the Kaioken. After deflecting Piccolo's attack, Super Saiyan 2 Cumber advances against Piccolo with a series of blows. Now things are not easy for Piccolo, who has more difficulty defending and counterattacking. Even though Cumber has increased his power, the Namekian god still manages to excel, landing a powerful hook to Cumber's abdomen, causing him to double over once more. Piccolo then moves to Cumber's back to unleash an energy sphere that would surely inflict a lot of damage. However, the Saiyan surprises everyone by having 2 extra arms emerge from his back. With one arm, he deflects Piccolo's energy, while with the other, he retaliates with a burst of power that Piccolo has to fend off. Cumber then returns to the attack, this time with 2 extra arms to assist him. They exchange even more frenzied blows until Cumber manages to use his extra arms to hold Piccolo's arms and deliver a series of punches with the other 2 arms. However, this doesn't last long, as the protector of Namek reacts by firing a beam from his antennas that electrocutes Cumber and forces him to let go. Then follows up with a point-blank energy wave that sends Cumber plummeting from the sky, severely scorched. Furious, Cumber retracts his 2 extra arms, returning them to his body, and then uses the Taioken, creating an intense flash of light that disrupts Piccolo's vision. After doing this, Cumber advances to attack, but to his surprise, Piccolo launches a flying kick that not only catches the Saiyan off guard, but also inflicts significant pain. Following this attack, a sequence of several other powerful and rapid strikes, punishing the entire body of the malevolent Saiyan with multiple forceful blows. Cumber asks how Piccolo is fighting so effectively, even without his eyes, and Piccolo responds by saying that his powers go far beyond the 5 senses. Enraged at receiving so many attacks, Cumber unleashes his full power all at once, pushing Piccolo away. He then multiplies into 3 clones. With his vision now restored, Piccolo notes that Cumber has some peculiar abilities, but this one in particular he can replicate. Piccolo also multiplies into 3, and triple battle ensues in the skies and on the ground of Namek. Thanks to instant transmission, Goku and Vegeta arrive on planet Cereal, or at least where the planet should be. Once again, all they find is the empty void of space. Goku and Vegeta become even more frustrated as nothing seems to go their way. Suddenly, Goku comes up with another idea. Vegeta asks what his new idea is, and Goku suggests that they should go talk to King Kai, as he usually knows things. Vegeta likes the idea, and they use instant transmission once again. Fortunately, King Kai's planet is in the right place, but when they arrive, they don't find him there. Goku and Vegeta are surprised by this, as according to Goku, King Kai is always on his planet, along with Gregory and Bubbles. However, there's one person who might know what's happening with King Kai, King Yemma. But when they arrive at King Yemma's palace, they face another surprise. He's not there either. To make matters worse, there's an incredibly long queue of souls, both inside and outside the palace. Goku and Vegeta see some ogres trying to control the unruly crowd of souls, while the ogre guide desperately speaks to the megaphone, attempting to calm everyone down. Goku and Vegeta approach the guide, asking what's happening and where King Kai and King Yemma are. The ogre guide responds saying that all the gods have hidden from the god killer, and he doesn't know where they are. Vegeta becomes very irritated by this and calls the gods a bunch of cowards. Goku says they now need to figure out how to find them. The triple battle between Piccolo's clones and Cumber's clones continues. The 6 warriors fiercely face off, each demonstrating their determination and incredible power. The 6 fighters soared through the skies, exchanging devastating blows that created shockwaves and left a trail of destruction wherever they went. One of Piccolo's clones concentrated energy in his hands and unleashed a powerful energy beam at one of Cumber's clones, forcing him to retreat. However, Cumber's clones were not willing to be defeated so easily. They used their multiplication abilities to confuse Piccolo's clones, creating illusions of themselves and attacking from unexpected angles. One of Cumber's clones sees the distraction caused by his illusions to launch a massive energy sphere towards one of Piccolo's clones. The Piccolo clone about to be hit by the energy sphere maximized his energy and launched an even more powerful defensive attack, dissolving Cumber's sphere and sending a shockwave that pushed back the other clones of Cumber. As the battle continued, Piccolo's clones demonstrated incredible agility and the ability to anticipate their opponent's movements. They effortlessly dodged the attacks of Cumber's clones and countered with precise strikes. Cumber's clones were starting to get exhausted, while Piccolo's clones maintained their composure. One of Piccolo's clones fired an energy beam that hit one of Cumber's clones directly, considerably weakening him. Another Piccolo clone noticed an opening in the defense of one of Cumber's clones, and swiftly advanced, delivering a powerful punch to the evil Saiyan's chest. The impact caused the Cumber clone to stagger and fall to the ground. The third Piccolo and the third Cumber engaged in intense and violent exchanges in the skies until Piccolo prevailed, throwing Cumber to the ground along with the other 2 clones that had already been knocked down by the other 2 Piccolos. The last Piccolo, likely the original, concentrated a massive amount of energy in his hands and fired a powerful wave of power at the Cumbers. The resulting explosion was spectacular, enveloping the trio of Saiyans in intense light. When the light dissipated, all the Cumbers were severely injured and weakened, seemingly unable to continue the fight. Seeing that the triple battle was over, Piccolo dispelled his clones and then told Cumber that the fight had ended. But at that moment, Cumber started laughing and said that it was far from over. The 2 clones of Cumber began to dissipate, disappearing in clouds of black and red smoke. Then they merged back with the original Cumber, who suddenly began emitting an extremely massive amount of power. Piccolo was greatly impressed, noting that the power Cumber was now emanating was incomparably greater than what he had shown before. As the entire dimension began to tremble and the walls of their reality started to crack, Cumber unleashed his power while revealing an even larger mane of hair, now displaying his Super Saiyan 3 form multiplied by 100 times through the Kaioken. Piccolo asked how he achieved such a sudden and insane power increase. Cumber told him that every time his body is severely injured, when he recovers, he experiences a significant power boost called Zenkai. What had just happened was that Piccolo had hurt him and his two clones badly, and when they merged back into him, they had tripled the Zenkai boost. Piccolo was very irritated by this and realized that he would have to be extremely cautious during the fight. The next time he inflicts significant damage on the Saiyan, it has to be definitive. Emanating this extremely monstrous power, Cumber attacks again. But to his surprise, when he attacked, Piccolo blocked. The Namekian god said that the Saiyan may have elevated his power even further, but he still hadn't used his maximum. In hell, King Kai and King Yema were having a very apprehensive conversation when suddenly Goku and Vegeta arrived using instant transmission, startling them both, who recognized them as Saiyans. However, upon closer inspection, King Kai was relieved because he recognized them as the two who faced Cumber on Earth. Goku and Vegeta were surprised to discover that King Kai had been observing what happened on Earth and asked if he knew the truth about them and what was happening. But King Kai said they didn't have time to think about it now, since Cumber was still on the loose and he needed them to deal with the evil Saiyan. Goku and Vegeta asked what he was talking about. Vegeta was sure that he had completely destroyed Cumber on Earth, but King Kai told him that wasn't true, and that in fact the one Vegeta faced on Earth was a clone of Cumber, which only had a quarter of his power. That left the two of them in complete shock. But upon further thought, Goku remembers that Cumber copied the Kaioken from Tien, so he could have copied the quadruple technique as well. Vegeta is completely impressed by this, since that guy was ridiculously powerful, and to think that he was only using a quarter of his power is completely absurd. King Kai says that's not all, and he tells them that Cumber became even stronger after that battle and learned the abilities of those three Earth warriors because of the time his energy possessed them. Goku says that this is very bad because now he knows the Ultra Instinct too, but Vegeta says this is much worse because he may have learned the Shinken too. However, King Kai reassures Vegeta, saying that Cumber definitely did not learn his abilities, as Vegeta completely destroyed the energy that possessed him, so that energy didn't return to Cumber to give him that knowledge. Goku asks who the heck this Cumber guy is, and how he came to be. King Kai says he will tell them. In a parallel dimension on Namek, the most intense battle that planet has ever seen was happening. Throughout the planet, shockwaves could be seen shaking both the planet's structure and the walls of that reality. While exchanging blows with Cumber, Piccolo is very concerned because this dimension will soon give way, and if it collapses, their battle will destroy Namek in an instant. In fact, this dimension should have been destroyed a long time ago, due to the destructive power of their battle. And it has only not happened yet because Piccolo is constantly using his magical power to reinforce this dimension. But as Cumber raises his power, it becomes increasingly difficult to fight him and keep that dimension intact at the same time. Seeing a gap in Namekian's guard, Cumber lands a punch so powerful in the middle of Piccolo's chest that it simply goes through Piccolo's body. But using a very strange ability, Piccolo simply changes the shape of his body into a serpentine form, transforming into a kind of dragon and wrapping himself around Cumber's body. But Cumber begins to emanate his Saiyan power intensely, causing his fiery aura to burn Piccolo's body and make him let go. When Piccolo moves away while suffering from the burns and returns to his normal form, Cumber makes a black energy claw appear and launches it at Piccolo, who has already healed and dodges it, but sees an entire mountain behind him being split by this claw. The Namekian responds to this attack by extending his arm towards Cumber while making his arm transform into a dragon. With his serpentine body twisting through the air, the dragon arm reaches out for the Saiyan, attempting to bite him. Cumber dodges that attack, but it was just the first of many from the dragon, who chases the Saiyan in the air while trying to catch him, but without success thanks to the evil warrior's dodges. But Piccolo uses his magical power to make several other dragons come out of his arm, as if they were branches branching from a tree. Cumber dodges as best he can, but ends up being grabbed by one of these dragons, and is then grabbed and trapped by the others, until the bigger one swallows him completely. After swallowing Cumber with his dragon arm, Piccolo touches him with his other arm that maintains a normal appearance. When he does this, the dragon arm starts to experience an energy overload, and then an absolutely massive explosion occurs in the dragon's mouth. After receiving such a powerful attack, Cumber is severely wounded, but still very eager to fight. Emanating even more power, he heads towards Piccolo without any fear, and the physical confrontation resumes. In hell, the story of the god-killer Cumber was told by the Northern Kai. In the beginning, the Saiyan race was not essentially evil. Of course, Saiyans maintained their warrior essence. But despite that, they had a certain degree of civility. The Saiyan king named Yamoshi was a very powerful man, but he was also very wise, and even kind by Saiyan standards. But Yamoshi had a brother named Cumber, and this brother of the king was born with a very peculiar characteristic. He had completely malevolent energy that consumed his heart with wickedness. This energy, despite its evil nature, seemed to have a certain degree of its own will, as it had the ability not only to consume Cumber, but also other people. It didn't take long for Cumber to realize that this energy also had a certain learning ability, and when it took hold of a person's body, it could learn their techniques. Yamoshi was alerted to the danger his brother represented, but he was not cold-hearted enough to kill his own brother, so he decided to imprison him for many years. But after many years of imprisonment, Cumber somehow managed to free himself and then corrupted the hearts of the Saiyans with his energy, organizing a revolt against King Yamoshi and his men. The war was very balanced and thousands of extremely severe battles occurred all over the planet. But since Cumber had the ability to infect other Saiyans with his energy, he and his men ended up gaining the majority and prevailed against Yamoshi's men. The king, in a last act of resistance, managed with the help of his 5 most loyal soldiers to transform into something called a Super Saiyan God. With this power, he managed to defeat thousands of Cumber's soldiers, and even came very close to defeating his brother in battle. But Yamoshi lost this power and was eventually defeated. After defeating his brother, Cumber became the king of the Saiyans and initiated a campaign of destruction throughout the universe. After a long time, Cumber eventually learned about the gods and decided that he didn't want to destroy just mortals, but the gods as well. Then he did everything possible to grow stronger. When the god of destruction Beerus woke up from his long slumber and discovered what was happening in Universe 7, he went after Cumber to destroy him. But not even the god of destruction could defeat the evil Saiyan and ended up dying. After killing Beerus the Destroyer, Cumber only grew stronger, beginning his campaign to assassinate all the gods of destruction. The more he fights, the stronger Cumber becomes, and the further away the dream of defeating him gets. But there's one thing that bothers Vegeta a lot. He asks King Kai how Cumber manages to become so powerful. Vegeta understands that Saiyans have a great capacity for evolution, and Cumber seems to be one of them. But from their battle on Earth, Cumber doesn't seem to be like Broly, for example, who evolves constantly and uncontrollably. So he wants to know how this guy became so powerful to the point of defeating Beerus and the other gods of destruction. The battle between the Namekian god and the God Killer reaches its climax, with countless electric bursts generated from the collision of their blows, and destroying the surrounding environment. Piccolo and Cumber exchange intense attacks as the barrier of that reality comes closer to breaking. As they fight, Cumber starts to feel his body in excruciating pain. The reason for this is that using Super Saiyan 3 with a 100-fold Kaioken has its price. Piccolo, on the other hand, is not doing so well either, because fighting using all that power and still keeping that dimension intact is not easy. But despite the exhaustion, they don't ease up on the pressure in the fight, with each collision of blows generating a great impact explosion, proving the colossal power of these two titans representing the Saiyan and Namekian races. But the Namekian god takes the lead, beginning to press Cumber with his attacks while shouting to vent his great fatigue and agony. Piccolo's attacks begin to land. Face, chest, abdomen, arms, legs. Cumber's entire body is struck by extremely powerful blows. Now the advantage of the Namekian god is very evident, and the fight seems to be heading towards an ending. But Cumber won't accept that. Damn it, I won't lose to you. The God Killer releases his power in an uncontrolled aura of energy and pushes Piccolo away with a punch. After doing this, Cumber concentrates all his power into a massive energy sphere, saying that with this attack, he will destroy Piccolo, this dimension, and even the real planet Namek. But Piccolo doesn't intend to let that happen and concentrates a powerful special beam cannon on his forehead. The attacks are launched and collide. At first, balance is maintained, however soon Piccolo begins to gain the upper hand. But Cumber is willing to take it to the end, and then he shouts, Kaioken multiplied by 200. As his muscles stretch to their limit and his skin starts tearing, spewing blood, the Saiyan emanates an aura of power twice as large, while his energy sphere doubles in size. Faced with this, Piccolo's special beam cannon retreats, and the Namekian god begins to be heavily pressured. Piccolo sees defeat right in front of him, but he can't let that happen, because if he's defeated, Namek and the Namekians will be completely wiped out. Faced with this impasse, he makes a decision, and then the Namekian god screams while emanating all his power. What? Cumber exclaims as he sees the enemy's energy beam advancing again against his attack. How can this be? To the complete shock of the Saiyan, the thin energy beam pierces his massive power spear. Seeing the energy beam coming towards him, Cumber thinks about dodging, but can't because of the destruction of his muscles caused by the Kaioken. His chest is penetrated by the energy, which after piercing him, destroys him. Next, the massive malevolent power sphere explodes, destroying the entire dimension. Part of the explosion also occurs in the real dimension of planet Namek, creating a spectacle of light, dust, and destruction in a very significant portion of the planet's surface. When all that is over, in the center of a large crater is Piccolo, who has returned to his base form and and is extremely injured with only half of his body intact. Piccolo couldn't fully defend himself from the explosion because he was too weakened and used a large part of his remaining power to try to make the other dimension resist as long as possible before collapsing. But it was thanks to the resilience of that dimension that most of the explosion was contained there, saving Namek from destruction. The Namekian god smiles, happy that he managed to save his planet in the end. However, when he takes a good look at the sky, Piccolo realizes that it's completely dark, and that can only mean one thing: Porunga has been summoned. As soon as Piccolo realizes this, the sky brightens again, which means that the Dragon Balls have been dispersed. And right after that, in the very next second, someone comes flying at an incredible speed and lands nearby. That someone is Cumber. Piccolo asks how this happened, and says that he's sure he killed him and left no trace of his body. But the Saiyan smiles and reveals that his technique wasn't to triplicate his body as Piccolo saw, but to quadruplicate it. When he hears this, Piccolo despairs. So it was a clone all along? Cumber confirms and explains that while Piccolo was distracted with his clone in another dimension, he took the opportunity to search for the Dragon Balls, and in the meantime wiped out everyone on the planet, except for the Grand Elder Guru, of course, as he needed him alive to use the Dragon Balls. But Cumber takes care of that very quickly, aiming in a specific direction and launching an energy sphere. The sphere hits the Guru's house and completely destroys both the house and him. After doing this, Cumber taunts Piccolo, saying that he failed as the guardian of Namek, but then he praises him, saying that the legend of the great Namekian god is real, and he was truly amazing fighting against his clone, which had most of his power, while also maintaining that dimension. He even says that if Piccolo hadn't tried to keep that dimension intact to protect the planet, he might have won. After saying this to Piccolo, Cumber reaches out to him and releases his malevolent energy, which begins to envelop Piccolo's body. He asks what Cumber is doing, and Cumber responds by saying that he will make the Namekian god his servant, and will also copy his abilities. Piccolo tries to resist the control of the malevolent energy, but he realizes that with the little power he has left, he won't be able to do so. However, he won't accept it and starts accumulating the remaining energy, saying that if he can't defeat Cumber anymore, he'll at least thwart his plan. Realizing what was about to happen, Cumber flies away immediately, and in a very next second, Namek is completely destroyed. From space, Cumber watches the explosion from which he narrowly escaped. What a pity. It would be great to have the powers of the legendary Namekian god, Cumber says to himself. But it doesn't matter. In the end, I will still be the supreme being of the entire multiverse. Back in Hell, Vegeta questions King Kai about how Cumber managed to gain so much power in such a short time. King Kai explains that Cumber achieved this thanks to a special Saiyan ability called Zenkai, which allows him to evolve whenever he receives a mortal wound. And after so many evolutions, Cumber became extremely powerful. Vegeta argues that even though he evolved so much with Zenkai, he needs to recover somehow to be able to evolve. And he asks how Cumber managed to do that while fighting a god of destruction. King Kai is about to answer his question, but suddenly their conversation is interrupted when a voice calls for them, a voice that Goku and Vegeta know very well. Mr. Goku, Mr. Vegeta, I would like to speak to you. The one making this call is the Grand Minister, who says that he has a very urgent matter to discuss with the two of them, and they must go to the Lord Zeno's palace immediately. Of course, this sudden call leaves Goku and Vegeta very surprised. Before they could fully grasp the origin of Cumber's power, Goku and Vegeta are suddenly summoned by Shinken. Why was the Shinken from this reality watching them, and what might he want? Find out in the upcoming episodes of Dragon Ball Shinken.